Rolling.
What is up, guys? My name is Jack, and that is Casey. And this is episode 3 of Satoshi Chats.
Yo, what's
This in
up?
this pod, what up? In this podcast, we discuss, um, you know, loose economics and Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
And the specific subject of the matter for today's discussion is freedom.
What a inspiring subject to choose.
Now, Casey, when you texted me, what should the topic be for today's discussion? And I said freedom. What was the first thing that crossed your mind?
Um, to be honest, it was the word sovereignty. First of all, I think that's
Ah,
a good.
yes.
That's very particular to Bitcoin and all that. But if we're just thinking about freedom right off the bat, I just think
Yeah,
about
just nothing
choice.
related to Bitcoin. Let's
Right.
just talk about freedom in general.
I think about choice personally, right? So to me, freedom means you have the choice to do certain things.
Yeah,
y- it, to be limited in one's choices is to not be free, correct?
yeah.
And
One would
so,
say that.
right? And so, yeah, to me, it's choices, it's options. And that's a very broad,
Opportunity.
yeah, that's a very broad definition, but choice, I think, is a good
Yeah.
place to start with, you know?
Now let's start off with the age-old question. However, I'm just going to be twisting it a little bit. Obviously, we've all heard it's money buy happiness, but does money buy freedom?
I personally think money buys freedom.
Yes,
If you
that's
think
a
about,
very simple answer,
yeah,
but
right,
we could
straight
go
to the
into
point.
depth.
Um, and so if we want to think about why, like, money buys freedom because money buys time, and time is freedom.
Yes.
Time gives you the ability to make choices in your life that will impact your life later on. Um, and being able to make choices because of the money you have is what gives you freedom. Like making the
Yeah.
choice to not work that day, for example. That's
Yes.
that's a
Going to your
choice.
daughter's recital, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like, say you don't want to attend that meeting or something like that, and you do something for your family instead. That's a choice that only money can make for you, you know?
Yeah,
And
of course.
so there's a certain freedom that absolutely money gives you that is unattainable by other means, right? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very interesting. Yeah, I always, my stepfather used to always say, they say money doesn't buy happiness, but I'm sure the hell happier when I was rich. So
Right.
that's how it is.
So I think there's a certain level of like happiness that is obviously enhanced by money. I think when people say money can't buy happiness, they're referring to like that sort of self fulfillment in life that people are
Yeah,
searching for.
all they're really trying to do is back each other up because everyone isn't happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they
So
all want money, and so they say, you know what? Well, since I can't have money, I'm just gonna agree with everyone that money can't buy me happiness, just so that I could seem as if I'm being happy. But when really, in reality, a little bit more money would make me a little bit more happy.
right, right. Let's think about this. Would I rather work today, or would I rather not and go do my hobbies and enjoy myself and do things that I want to do? Yeah, I'd absolutely rather do those things. So, uh, it is kind of like
Easier said than
farce.
done, for sure.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And so, to just be able to not go out and work and spend your time making money because you have money to give you freedom. That's super. It's a big change in your life, you know. And I think people saying like, "Oh, that does," money doesn't buy happiness. I think they're not thinking about the bigger picture in terms of like, what
Yeah,
time can you buy with that money? What do you think?
yeah. What I'm thinking of is um, like human time is obviously the most valuable resource, right? And they say human time, right? But how valuable is your own time, right?
Hmm.
How valuable, not just human time, but your own time. So how much do you value your own time? And that's something that I think people um, don't take a second look at because yeah, time is valuable, but your own time is even more valuable.
Yeah.
If that could make sense. I don't know.
No, it
Very
does. And I think a lot of people underestimate how time just kind of slips by, like
yeah,
it's easy to throw away months, years, and suddenly you're in a decade at a job. And think about that. That's a whole portion, a whole large chunk of your life that's been squared away by essentially a corporation, which may or may not even exist in 20 years, and which essentially lives to fill the pockets of a bunch of rich guys who tried to turn some money into more money.
right. Yeah, it's almost robbery and slavery in a way. The fact that they do that.
Yeah.
And what I was I had a thought today when I was driving. Um, I was thinking, well, how come a Roth IRA and how come, 401k bullshit? How come I could take all that money out and have it be tax free? Like what's the catch? And the catch is that you can't do it until you're 60. You slave away your hours
Yeah.
and all those hours just to not pay taxes on your gains, like it's pathetic. It's almost pathetic. Who's
Here's the kicker.
guaranteeing that you're gonna live till age 60? Who's
Yeah.
guaranteeing that? No one.
Yeah. Here's the kicker. The taxes that you're saving on that money, right? That is far and away less valuable than the time you
And your
spent,
actual time, yeah,
yeah, trying to
time
get to
that you
that point.
spent, yeah, it's so ridiculous,
Yeah.
very ridiculous.
And it's just a trap. The Roth IRAs and the 401ks, they're a 65-year-old trap. They want to
Yeah,
make you work for the rest of your life,
yes,
essentially.
be in the workforce till you're 60,
Yep.
please, and we'll give you more money if you do.
Think about
Get that
and
money.
Yeah. Yep. And the Bitcoin's the antithesis of that, locking away your money in a financial institution like that.
Yes.
Um,
I
so
like it when the
proud to
word
say it.
Bitcoin, yeah, I like it when the word Bitcoin is said
Yeah.
for the first time in
That's
the
the first
podcast.
time in the podcast that we've mentioned Bitcoin,
Yeah,
and I think it's time we bring it up.
yes. Now, in one or two sentences, what do you see? Why do you see? I mean, I think we all see it this way, but why do you see Bitcoin as the more as the as the as the more freedom choice, I guess you could say, the
As
more
the more freedom yielding choice.
yeah, the more freedom yielding choice. In a
Um,
quick summary,
yeah, so really quick summary. There's two things.
yeah,
One, it enables zero control through inflation, i.e., you can't devalue my Bitcoin through someone
right.
else choosing to pump out more. And two,
Hmm.
access. I am able to access my Bitcoin 24/7 uh, through many different means and methods.
Yes, that's a good one. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and just being able, just like we just were talking about the Roth IRA being locked in until you're 65, Bitcoin is
Exactly.
accessible at any age, any time.
Roth
Nothing can stop
IRA
me.
is the opposite of freedom,
It
almost
really
in a
is.
way. The way I mean, yeah, you got two pretty solid points out there, but the only one I could necessarily add to that is it's the freedom for the people to choose what currency they want rather than the government telling you which currency to use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
So
important.
it's it doesn't exist now because there's some sort of government backbone holding Bitcoin up together. It's about to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
That's for another episode, but um, it's clearly chosen by a large amount of people, and a large amount of people have trust in it. So that that civilian selection, I guess you could say, of a currency, it's just what the people choose as their currency, and so far it's been completely natural,
Right. Like
very
the
very healthy.
the public selection of a monetary network will drive out all
Yes,
other use, all other
that's a
money networks.
good little bit of words right there. The public's selection. It needs
Uh,
to be the people's selection.
it
It needs to
does.
be,
Yes. Because let's be honest, the money needs to be a public good, right? Just like the air we breathe and the ground we use to live on and
yeah,
the water that we drink and the sea that we use our boats to transport goods on. All of those are public goods, public things that are governed publicly. It needs to be money needs to be a publicly decided thing because a privately
yeah.
created money, which is what we are literally using a privately created
We're
money.
literally, it's like a private company
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. The Fed Reserve is not. Yeah, I don't remember the last
It's not
time I elected
like the
anyone to the
public
Federal
didn't.
Reserve Board.
Yeah,
So
I don't remember the last time. Wait, in this previous election, did you vote for more inflation, or did I miss that?
I
Because
don't
I
think
could have
either
sworn.
choice would have chosen de-inflation. So I think no matter what, the people were going to be forced into inflation because that's how things work in America.
I like how I was asked as a citizen of the United States. I like how I wasn't asked to print, trillions of dollars of
Right,
my
like
currency, of my native currency.
right. Do
It's
you
like,
want to
oh,
devalue your money or not? And we weren't asked that.
we weren't asked if that was an option.
Luckily, Bitcoin doesn't ask questions. Bitcoin does what it needs to do.
Bitcoin
And
asks you questions.
right, it
Or,
asks you
wait,
personal
no, you
questions.
ask. Yeah. Yes.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't care who you are because it doesn't need to verify you. You
It
just
doesn't care if you've murdered a whole family. It really
it
doesn't.
really doesn't, which is I mean, a lot of
I
people
mean,
are
that
like, "Oh,
sounds,
criminals use Bitcoin." But
yeah.
it's not that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to protect you, the common citizen. A lot of people say,
Yeah,
"Oh, I
but
have nothing
like,
to hide."
I
Well,
want to go
then
back to that family murdered comparison because
uh-huh, uh-huh.
it's something that really needs to it like obviously in I mean the first look at it, you know, like obviously Bitcoin doesn't care if a murderer is using what would you say? I mean, using Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah, using Bitcoin.
Um, but I mean, and obviously, like if anyone were to be told that, they'd clearly be, you know what? I don't think he should be able to use that. And obviously, it's he shouldn't because he's a murderer. But the fact that it allows it anyway, like the fact that it allows literally anyone. So there's a tweet that I guess you could compare it to
Hmm.
is someone was talking about the fact that they want 14 rounds in their handgun,
Hmm.
and they compared it to Rosa Parks about how just like how Rosa Parks didn't need to sit on the front seat, she exercised her right to do it. Just like how
Yeah.
holding 14 rounds in your magazine, you don't necessarily need to do it, just like how she didn't necessarily need to sit in the front seat.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just like how I don't necessarily need 14 rounds in my magazine. Just like how, you know, a murderer doesn't necessarily need or should use BTC. Like it doesn't matter. It's there anyway.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
or
want it to be accessible to literally anyone
right, like
because otherwise
just how
that's
people
completely
don't necessarily need to have full privacy in their monetary network. But
yeah.
example, when an
Okay, that's a
arbitrary
little better
force,
comparison.
right, when an arbitrary force starts to determine who can and cannot use money, I mean,
Yeah.
quite frankly, you end up with things like racial segregation because it's easy to do that when you have control over finances. And that's
Yeah.
what people don't understand is that these like talks about security and privacy and stuff, they're not about conspiracy theories. They're about real things like segregation and redlining and all sorts of bad things that the government has actually done in the past and we are trying to prevent in the future. It's real.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually.
Yeah, seriously. So
Mhm.
so freedom. Let's segue here into a bit more about.
It's
I
a
want to.
segue.
Yeah, segue. I like segue.
It's a good word.
Let's head off into the land of decentralization and how that is effectively freedom for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So, how does Jack, if you want to sum up really quickly, how does a big bank,
I'll try.
how does a big bank and how do institutions like investment banks, how do they how do they ruin freedom in normal money in fiat currency? Why is that bad?
Mm. Why is it bad that they exist?
Yes, yeah, like why is it bad that that we have such large institutional banks holding all our money? Why is that bad?
But the first thing that comes to mind is third party trust in your
Mm-hmm.
money.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I mean, that's the main one. I mean,
Right.
rely on a third party for verification of your funds.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't exist. Also, I mean, because they're extremely corrupt. But I mean, I mean, who know? I mean, I could go on four different paths here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seriously. So let's. I liked the last one you said corruption. Um, so corruption. So let's say, for example, you have big banks in a separate country, and there's a disaster in a separate country. Do you know what happens a lot with donations and stuff is the big banks will get set up with funds and stuff, and they'll actually just take it and not donate it and use it as planned. Because as it turns out,
Right.
institutions and people are not trustable, even though you want to trust them. So if you were to use a monetary network that doesn't rely on trust like Bitcoin, you could simply donate to a monetary fund which relied on smart contracts to activate a sequence of supply chain events that would essentially bring about supplies to a affected area after a national disaster or whatever. Um,
So yeah, there you could legitimately verify your donation.
right, literally, it would be quite literally like a viewable transaction chain that we would be able to determine happened and would have a determined effect on the community rather
Yeah,
than
that's
giving
quite
a
interesting.
big bank money. Because think about it, the only way to do things right now is by going through a US bank because no one sends, we're not sending boatloads of cash over, you have to wire the money. So you wire it over to a bank, and what happens when it hits the bank? It goes away. And it never always gets used by the people? Um, so yeah, that's a good example, I think,
Yeah,
is the corruption in them.
it seems like such an interesting dystopia of like think about it before I mean before you could walk around and there would just be banks everywhere.
Hmm. Hmm.
Think about think about you know I'm trying to think of a good year to think. Maybe maybe like, America like Christopher Columbus times.
Oh, okay.
Um maybe a little bit after that, maybe like 1800s, but
Okay.
imagine how odd it would seem to to for all these buildings to exist around where you live
Hmm.
that you kind of just walk into and like they kind of like hold your money for you and they just have like these cool little logos and like fancy names like Citi or like Citibank, like Bank of America. Ooh, so
And they're kind
fancy.
of like they kind of are literally they serve the purpose to like intimidate like the commoner, like they're all fancy
Yeah,
set up and everyone's dressed nicely just so
yeah,
that like the working class people who walk in kind of feel intimidated. And it's like,
yeah,
oh
and
yeah,
so
you're
that they
gonna ask
stay in
us
their
for
spot.
money, we're gonna fuck you over.
Yeah, you're gonna ask us for money because you're poor.
Exactly. They set it up so that poor people literally have to ask for money, and then once they do, they take advantage of that situation, that kind of leverage. Because what does giving money to someone as an institution give you over that person? It gives you leverage, gives you power.
Nothing.
Well, yeah, nothing as far
Well, I
as
guess
debt.
yeah.
I mean, debt's worth
Yeah,
nothing, so but it gives you
yeah,
leverage, gives you power. You can hold that over them. So to have an
yeah.
institution just use that power so excessively on America as it seems to be used today, it's pretty crazy. I mean,
Actually, it's quite scary, actually.
right. And so like
Frightening.
think about how many people's homes are connected to their bank. They literally owe
Yeah.
the home to their bank and they're paying their bank for
Why
the home
can't I
currently.
why can't I pay my mortgage through the blockchain, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Why is my mortgage not owned by Bitcoin? You know?
Yeah, why can't like I get like like a loan with Bitcoin being collateral and that's how I pay for my house? Like why? Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Why when I buy a house do I have to tell you how I got the money to buy the house?
Hmm.
Why do you need to know that information? Like, are you jealous of are the banks just jealous and they want like a little piece of your pie that you're
Well,
eating over there?
that here. I mean, a lot of it has to do with piece of
That's
pie and stuff.
exactly what's, yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, they're taking a whole fucking quarter slice of it, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah, oh, the nice pie you just made, I'll take all of it, please.
yes. So I think that actually lends us into the a good next subject to talk about. Let's talk about taxes. Um,
Taxes.
taxes.
Oh, nice. I love
Um,
taxes.
so okay, we could talk about whether or not like taxes are a good thing or a bad thing because um, yeah, we could just do that. But that would take a whole episode. I think what's
Yeah.
better to talk about is in terms of um, does Bitcoin, uh-huh, does Bitcoin give someone the right to essentially free themselves from taxes? That's what I'm asking is d should cryptocurrency be a taxable thing or not?
Well, um, let's say it didn't have taxes. So let's say you could buy and sell crypto and no taxes.
Hmm.
It would be, it would be, because I mean, there's, it would be quite unfair to like the stocks, right? I mean,
Yeah,
why like
of
holding
course they're going to
your
tax it, right?
money elsewhere other than the, yeah. I feel like holding your money elsewhere other than the United States dollar is usually going to be taxed, and if everyone else is doing it, so is Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
And
And so
it's a
that's
sad
just
reality.
the way it is. Yep, everything's
It's a
going to be
sad
taxed,
reality.
and I think that's really what I was looking for to hear, because it is true that eventually everything's going to be taxed if it's not the government issued currency, essentially. Um, now, here's here's something. Like companies who avoid taxes, right? They say it's like on the lines of like they gave it back taxes through other means, and that the taxes they're saving they reinvest into the company, which ends up in the economy anyways. So there's lots of reasonings behind it, right? Um,
I feel like if they,
mhm.
I mean, I'm not too sure, how Amazon gets away with paying such little taxes, but like if all of it is legitimate, like business um inquiries, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
like I feel like it shouldn't I feel like it should be fine. But if there's some sus stuff going on, and if they're like hiding some stuff, obviously I feel like they should pay more. But I mean, the laws are the laws, and if Amazon is following the laws,
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, I don't know, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one.
Right.
Because initially you would say, oh, Amazon should pay more taxes,
Hmm.
but what's that going to do to the cost of things?
Hmm. Um, yeah, seriously. So, I think the final thing I wanted to talk about just a little bit maybe was the freedom that Bitcoin offers in terms of cross-border transactions, like being a global currency. Um, so let's just get right into that. So big,
Yeah, that's very nice because I mean, I feel like there might be a um not reliable. That's a bad word because Bitcoin is reliable, but
more widely accepted at some
cheaper
point.
way, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yes. Yes. More
just
efficient,
cause
maybe.
just cause let's say I want to pay someone in China just for a couple stickers, like
Uh-huh.
I shouldn't have to pay in Bitcoin. Like there's got to be a more efficient, um, less because
Are
people
you
don't want to spend Bitcoin. Like
are
it's
you
not
well
something
versed on
you
Chainlink and that stuff?
Chainlink.
Yeah, like what that is,
I
and
have a yeah, yeah. I have a few Chainlink.
I mean, yeah, personally, I think the off chain transactions are going to be the future. They're gonna have these
Yeah,
fast transactions that
because
are off chain, and it's just going to be a simple Satoshi shot over the ledger. It'll be easy. So,
like I love the global currency as a store of value,
mhm.
but in terms of transacting business, I feel like there's a better way to go around it. But I'm
Yeah,
all for I'm all for sending Bitcoin to family members across the world for
uh huh,
like
uh huh,
value wealth preservation purposes. Like obviously this that happens like a very small amount of the transactions. Like it's like, oh, you initially think, oh, Bitcoin's this great currency that send all around the world. Really, such a small percent of the transactions are actual people sending money to their family and whatnot.
yeah,
So I mean, yeah, that's great and all, but really not many transactions are that. So
right.
for more traders, and fucking
Traders.
business people,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting. I think that'll grow as time goes on. I think more people will use it in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna send money to my family across the globe, and especially as like other currencies get devalued, people will want to store their value in that. So yeah.
See, like, what if like the United States pulled something where it's like just made it easier for the transaction of Bitcoin to USD. So like they just made it so there's like less fees, but like they made it easier for you so that you pay your taxes on your BTC, but they may just make it super easy, so it's like super attractive, you
Yeah,
know?
I think the future also is Bitcoin coinciding with some sort of other currency, because it
I
is
feel like
difficult at this point to think that Bitcoin will be like the main transactionary currency.
it'll get quite easy to transfer
Right, that's the key.
Bitcoin to USD, but the real question is, do you want to do that?
Right, yeah.
So,
So, yeah. All right,
all right,
folks.
is that how long we got on that episode?
I
That'll wrap it up for episode 3.
Yes, thank you for watching.
Episode 4. You know what? If anyone is actually genuinely listening to this, if you want to, if we get a comment that tells us what the next topic should be, we will do it.
Oh yeah,
We
we'll do whatever you guys
literally
say,
will.
literally.
Yeah. If anyone comments anything, we will respond to it. We will, you know,
Yeah,
just yeah, interact with us. We'll interact with you. If
indeed.
you guys
Give
have
us
any
a give
questions,
us a
we'll
shout.
be happy to answer. But
Absolutely.
yeah, peace out.
Peace out. Have a good one, everyone.